Welcome to the Political Checkmate. This is the third installment in my four-part series defending Charlie Kirk's argument. I have checkmated two TYT videos on Charlie Kirk's argument that gun deaths are still worth owning a gun. The next two videos are Sam Cedars' co-host Emmett Vicklin and David Packman's guest Luke Beasley. The last video I checkmated is TYT, and now I'm going to checkmate the Majority's Report video called Right Wing Loser Claims Gun Violence is Necessary in America. Before we begin, in the video, the Majority Report heavily commits the Nirvana fallacy. The Nirvana fallacy is where you believe your policies have no consequences and everything will be perfect. The policies the Majority Report wants to implement are a discussion for another day. Now that I got that out of the way, let's go.
The Second Amendment protects all the other amendments. That's a fact. And there is a cost to any form of liberty. That's a fact. If you have cars, you get 50,000 auto fatalities every single year. If you have planes, you're going to have some planes crash. You have the Open Skies Act, you're going to have a bad pilot. You have pools, unfortunately, you have kids wander into the pool and they die of suffocation. Happens far too often in Arizona. You have peanuts, people could be eating alone in their home and they could choke to death. You get the point. Liberty
not really
has some costs.
What?
But yes, liberty is worth it. And I say that because we live under this delusion that somehow we can get gun deaths down to zero. So if you come from the premise that we're going to have an armed citizenry, you're going to have a cost.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but the primary purpose of peanuts is not to murder, it's to eat for sustenance. The primary purpose of pools is also not to murder, it is for enjoyment and cooling off. Like, I don't understand well, I do, I guess. But, like, even if you just look at the numbers, peanut deaths versus pool drowning deaths versus gun violence deaths in this country, the statistics, I would imagine, not comparable. And yet, like, you can't just list off a bunch of different ways that people can die and relate them to nouns and objects and claim that they're the same as guns, which are, by definition, there to kill people. They are weapons for murder.
Guns have the capacity to kill people. The gun itself does not kill people, and most shootings do not kill or injure people when taking place at a shooting range. When guns are used in self-defense, they are not even fired. Also, you should compare gun accident deaths, not homicide deaths, with these other forms of deaths because that would be more of an apples-to-apples comparison. And the reason why Charlie Kirk is naming these objects is because these objects bring more benefits than costs. After all, there are 1.67 million gun defenses.
Oh, Charlie Kirk, you stupid piece of crap. I have a peanut allergy, and I'm also a vegetarian. I'm trying to go vegan as slowly as possible. As soon as the vegan cheese gets better, I will be all for it. But sorry, Emma, I know you're not a cheese fan, but shout out Bradley because you're a real one. But I remember the last thing I did before I became vegetarian was I went to Five Guys, which is a place that douses everything they cook in peanut oil. And I have a severe peanut allergy where if I like drink or like consume a little bit of this like little tree nut thing, my throat constricts and I might die. And I'm not going to pay Martin Shkreli for the $500 shot that saves my life. I honestly don't care about my debt that much. So even in that situation, Charlie Kirk, I price that in. I know that gamble. But even in the sense of healthcare, where again, I could go to any other country and I don't have to think about, oh, I'm eating at this place that serves peanut oil. I have to factor in whether I can afford to survive the accident that I have. Much like in those other countries, you can have a situation where you don't have gun violence. You can have a situation where you don't have mass shootings.
Right. They've
In America,
structured
you
their
have-
society in a way that you can have access to the EpiPen that you would need to survive without having to pay hand over fist $500. And you also, they have structured their society in a way where weapons of war are not roaming our streets constantly.
And one more thing, there's a stereotype that black people can't swim, and Charlie Kirk made another thing about like swimming than that. I surf, you dumb bitch. So, like, don't tell me about like there's some priced in factor about, oh, people risk their lives when they go out to swim, or people risk their lives when they eat certain nuts, or people risk their lives when they go out in the street. Because I guess cars drive fast in a country that relies super heavily on private transportation, when we should be paying the money instead, not to those car companies who are trying to grift off of electric vehicles, but more onto public transportation that'll actually enrich and make our communities and even suburbs and rural areas thrive.
Well, people will still die by allergic reactions in Europe if an EpiPen is not nearby or if they forgot to bring it. In Europe, if a person wants to personally murder you, they'll choose a different weapon. I don't think restricting guns would work because 90% of guns used by criminals came from illegal sources, according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics. Also, a 2011 study from the American Journal of Criminology found that gun homicides in countries are more correlated with socioeconomic and cultural factors than gun availability. On pools, Charlie Kirk said that they can kill children if they accidentally fall in the pool and drown, and also people are still taking risks going on a public transportation by criminals trying to pickpocket you or terrorists trying to hijack or explode the bus.
False and so
also,
easily disprovable.
Well, let's also just be clear here. If you're swimming in the pool, you're choosing to swim in the pool. I guess there are some people that could fall into the pool, but yes, these are accidents. You can't eliminate accidents in situations that don't involve weapons of war. And we would still have guns in this country in some measure, so there could be an accident on that front.
But even pools have mitigation measures.
But even pools, and they also have regulation.
Yeah, lifeguards, like ladders to get out of the pool, like
yes.
insurance on the pools. Like,
right. They also are regulated. Yes. The shallow end, yeah, the part where you can
The
stand
lines.
up.
The little plastic things where they're like,
a no diving sign.
Hey, yo, that part might be kind of deep. It might be kind of brazy if you go over there. Like, just
if you can't swim, do not go over there.
Just wade here. The wading principle also undercuts it. And for peanuts, there's stuff and labels that say
don't eat this if you're allergic.
Don't eat this if you're allergic. And hold on. And the other element is people are choosing to eat peanuts. They're probably choosing to go in the pool unless they fall in. They're not choosing to get shot up at a bank or at a school or at a mall or at a grocery store. They're not choosing that.
I agree that we can reduce accidents, but that won't stop a person killing somebody in a pool by knocking these people out in the head and pushing them in the pool. People can still die from allergies if you go to a party and some of the food is self-made at home. They could use out nuts, or the food labels could be in a different language. People can still use these objects to murder people by slipping elements of nuts into these people's food. Also, people are always going to face the negative externalities of other people's decisions, such as driving a car and somebody hitting you. Nobody was asking for that action.
My only last point is that the number of times I got made fun of by my friends who I grew up with who now live in Europe and other different parts of that, I would visit them and they'd go, "Hey, aren't you so happy to be in Europe now where you aren't currently worried about possibly being shot? Aren't you happy to be in Europe where you aren't constantly worried about the police constantly potentially killing you at any given interaction? Aren't you happy that the police just talk to you and give you a warning as opposed to pointing their guns at you?"
I agree that the police in the United States have a lot of problems such as qualified immunity and civil asset forfeiture. But from the studies I have seen, the police in general are not injuring or killing people because of their race. A study from the British Medical Journal looking at Arizona's Tucson police from January 2018 to March 2020 found that officers are less likely to injure African American suspects than white suspects. Another study from the Journal of Criminal Justice looking at fatal shootings by the police from 2015 to 2016 found that officers were more likely to shoot white people not attacking the officer than black people not attacking the officer. This is the end of the video. Thank you for watching, and please donate to my Patreon so I can make more videos and have your video requests checkmated. And next week I am going to checkmate David Pakman's correspondent Luke Beasley and finish this 4-part series. And thanks for watching, and have a nice day.